A few years ago, I was working at a place that required me to wake up very early in the morning to get to work. My neighbors, enthusiastic patriots that they were, began their July 4th celebrations weeks before the holiday, blasting ordnance far later than decency and city regulations allowed. It woke me, freaked out my dog, and woke my son. The next morning, I parked in their driveway and honked my horn until they came out to confront me. I told them that I would repeat this every morning if they continued their celebrations past 9 p.m., as the city mandated. I only had to do this once. Edit, spelling. So today at work I get a phone call from an, unfortunately, long-time customer. We have 3 tables outside but it's looking a bit gloomy out there. Anyway, she calls to order ahead, special privileges and all which I hate, and at some point says I'll be there at 12:15, is that gonna be okay? I asked her what she meant and I couldn't believe my ears. She flat out asked me if it will be raining at 12:15 this afternoon. So now not only are we servers supposed to be mind readers, but also the world's most accurate meteorologists. She expected me to know the rain patterns down to a pinpoint geographic location as well as to an exact minute. I can't with this anymore. I used to work for a company where the majority of the work was done outside of the office on our own. Most staff would go into the office once a week, and since they went in based on what fit their schedule best, there was a chance you might never have met a fellow employee despite you both having worked there for months. One day we had a training session. These would happen around every 3 to 4 months. This meant that all employees were called in. I already knew what we were being trained on, since I had helped the manager on it beforehand. Still, everyone was expected at training including me, so I was there. For the first hour or so everything went like usual. Then we had a break. I headed outside for some fresh air whilst another guy went out for a smoke. We hadn't met before so we introduced ourselves. Turns out we had a lot in common. We got on like a house on fire and both had a similar stupid sense of humor. When we went back inside when they wanted to restart training, we were still chatting. After around 20 minutes, where we had quietly cracked some jokes to each other about the training material, the boss stood up and said, "Guys, there is a Starbucks up the road. Go there, get a drink, and don't come back until you have finished talking. Okay?" So, we went to Starbucks. Grabbed a drink each. Chatted about various subjects. Before we knew it had gone 5 p.m., work was done for the day so we went home. 2 days later we were both called into the office. The manager wanted to know why we hadn't returned to training. "You told us to not come back until we had finished talking." "Yes?" "Well, we weren't finished talking." At which point both of us were trying to keep a straight face. The boss looked at us both and sighed. I really should have seen that coming. In the end I trained him up on the stuff we had missed, and we've been really close friends ever since. I work at retail store that offers store credit cards. Upon approval, they'll get a receipt as their temp card, or they can use their ID and personal info to pull up the account. This dude approached me with 2 filled to the top shopping bags. Alongside were 2 women, who I was guessing his wife and his mom. Somewhere in that shopping spree, he lost his temp card, and he handed me his ID to pull up his account. It was instant red flag. 1. There was a punch in his card. Not an ID from my state, but I assume it's universal rule across different continents that punched ID are not valid. 2. No, it's not expired. So I have no idea why there was a punch there. 3. The address in our system and his ID doesn't even match up. But it did pulled up. Someone in my store opened a credit card account for this dude, with an invalid ID, right before he's going back to another country. He said he's from X country and will go back soon. He was extra concerned about billing problems and super worried about getting any past due bill. He ended up paying with a debit card. I still want to know which of my brilliant co-worker opened a credit for someone with an invalid ID. Some background: I was working in a big drugstore in Germany and here it's uncommon for men to work there. The fact that I have long hair makes me look somewhat feminine from behind but my broad shoulders and my beard indicate that I'm in fact a male. Now on to the story, op me duh, old lady. I was just stocking the shelves when Ol approached me. The following conversation ensues. "OL, excuse me miss, could you help me?" OP, while getting up and turning towards her, "Yes of course, how can I help you?" I didn't mind being misgendered because it happened every once in a while. OL, oh you are a man then you can't help me. OP, I might be a man but I can still help you find what you are looking for. OL, I'm looking for a panty liner. But I don't think you're qualified enough for that since you're male. OP, even though I'm just a male apprentice I can still help you. Oh well, let's give it a try. I then proceeded to show her exactly what she was looking for, but she still went to complain to my manager about me helping her because I'm a male. My manager told me I acted the right way, so that's that. This was my first post here, and even though it's not the most exciting one, I still hope you enjoyed it. Sorry for the bad English as I'm German. I'm a courtroom assistant in a Southeast Asian country. I'd rather not get much further than that on identifying information. We do both security and practical assistance like moving displays, escorting juries, and some ceremonial stuff as well. This was the sentencing of an evil flip on several high crime offenses, similar to what a capital offense may be in America. Here high crime is the level above criminal offense, or felony for the rest of the world. He stalked, kidnapped, raped, and murdered a locally famous and growing pop artist who was pregnant. He was charged with stalking, high crime kidnapping, high crime rape, high crime murder, high crime fetal homicide, and a bunch of other stuff. Evil Flip, as he will be referred to from here on out, was on suicide precautions as he made threats against his own life in prison, so he was in spiffy paper clothes. We were well into victim impact statements. The victim had a large family and there were something like 35 individuals addressing the court. We're something like 28 statements into it. Next up was Granddad. These are always really emotional, families are always really upset for good reason, but this 80-plus old guy is the worst I can remember. He was crying, breathing heavily, shaking, the entire sentencing. He was called to make his statement, starts walking up, about past the counsel table. He then turns, tackles the attorneys and Evil Flip. He didn't get much in on the Evil Flip, maybe a kick and 2 punches before 15 of us pile up on him. He was taken into custody, and it quickly became apparent that Evil Flip got what was coming. Evil Flip is screaming and gagging for about 20 seconds, then he starts convulsing, came back in about 2 minutes choking/gagging, really bad. We put him on his side and get an ambulance on the way. The rest of the gallery was evacuated and court went into recess. By time the ambulance arrives he's not breathing, only twitching and has no pulse. They do CPR, take him out to the hospital. He was revived and died later that day. Coroner's report said his brainstem was damaged, his skull was broken, and brain herniated through break in his skull. The Granddad was interviewed by national police who have jurisdiction of courts. He said that he'd been planning that for days, he felt no remorse, said if he had time he would have killed the attorneys too. It also came out that the Granddad was in my country's mob back in the day, had 40 years in prison prior for drowning someone in petrol and lighting their corpse on fire. He was suspected but not confirmed to be involved in several other high-profile murders. He was charged with murder, conspiracy, contempt of court, and 2x simple battery for the attorneys. He was found not guilty of everything except contempt of court, to which he was originally sentenced to 4 years, but it was reduced to terminal probation with home confinement due to his health. This happened when I was 12/13ish, and I cited as the moment I realized I wasn't a kid anymore. Me and my 4 little siblings were spending the day at the Children's Museum in our city. It was my favorite childhood activity and we went there often for years. I didn't think much of being the oldest kid in the room since my whole family was there and I knew how to step back and let the younger kids have priority. There's one section of the museum where you're in a model town with a grocery store and vet and construction site, etc. I was standing around organizing some fake groceries when a lady around 35-40 yo gets my attention and points out a 4-5 yo girl, not related to her, who had just vomited nearby, apparently alerting me to take care of it. The kid was laying on the floor of the fake store next to her vomit. I was pretty socially awkward and fully in kid mode, so I got all flustered, wanting to be helpful but not knowing how to explain that, 1, I don't know what to do, and 2, I wasn't going to do anything because I was just enjoying the museum. I probably looked like a volunteer tidying up the space. I think I eventually awkwardly explained myself and pointed her in the direction of wherever the museum workers would be, and she went away. I stopped playing in the children's section after that though, for the day and ever since. I'm retired, but work 3 days/week for a sailing school doing boat maintenance/diesel repair, etc. I also happen to live aboard my sailboat in the same marina. Invariably, one of the school's clients will see me fiddling about on my boat and either A. ask to look at the pretty new boat going into the school fleet, hint, it's mine and I wouldn't let one of you nimrods on if you were bringing free rum and naked women, or B. can you help me with something on insert boat name. The answers are always no, and sorry not today, I'm not working, call the office. I invariably get a hurt bunny look and a Whitney but you're here, working on this boat. And I have to tell them, yes, I'm working on this boat, and you're standing in my front yard bugging me on my day off. It amazes me that so many people can be so self-absorbed. No one cares that we're still living through COVID, or that things are still closed, places are operating with limited staffing, supplies are not available because the world came screeching to a halt. They just want their stuff and they want it yesterday. My current favorite is that everyone wants their order made a priority. First, your items are likely on a shipping barge or in a tractor trailer, somewhere smack in the middle of a crate. We have no possible way of making your order move faster than anyone else's. 2. If we make every order a priority just because the customer asks for it, we'll be right back where we are because everyone is asking to be prioritized. It sucks for everyone right now, maybe don't work so hard to add to it. Here's another one from my dial-up tech support days. This was probably 2004. User calls in for help getting things going, because our install CD didn't do the trick. Note, I worked for a small rural ISP, not AOL. She was a nice enough older lady, and was doing a solid job following directions. We were still having a rough go of it, for whatever reason, and things just weren't working. Finally, after about 45 minutes she says, "Well, I've had enough of this," click. Okay, she's frustrated, I get it. Maybe 20 minutes later she calls back to cancel her account, and was polite about it. No problem on my end, since I wasn't trained or asked to do any kind of customer retention. There were 3 to 4 local ISPs, and people moved around quite a bit. When she signed up, she prepaid a few months and was due a refund, which had to be run through our main office. Again, rural ISP, total staff of maybe 10 across both locations, and my location was usually just 2 of us. Me, customer lady wants to cancel her account, and she needs a refund. Co-worker, what did you say to her? Huh? C, ooh, she called here and said you were very rude and called her names. Nope. Alright, whatever. But then shortly thereafter her husband calls. Husband, what did you say to my wife? Me, nothing sir, we were working through an issue and she hung up in the middle of the call. H, no. She said you called her a ing. Sir, I assure you I did no such thing. H, you didn't say it to her, you were talking to someone else. Sir, I'm working in this office by myself today. Who do you suggest I was talking to? Random customer walks in to pay their bill. H, well, we're just talking right now, but if we were face to face it'd be different. Are you threatening me, sir? H, no, I'm just saying. Okay. H, I'll get you fired for this. Sir, I've worked here for 4 years and have a good relationship with my boss. I doubt that's going to happen. H, FITFAHRCHSNARE. Click. Random customer, what was that about? No idea. My boss asked me about it afterward of course, but nothing came of it. I still have no idea why she thought what she thought. Hi/Tifu, first-time poster, long-term lurker here with my first post worthy of up. About an hour ago I decided to head down my local shop for an adult beverage or two. As I'm standing in the queue, I can no longer hold in the cough manifesting in my throat and release it into my elbow. I've been smoking 10 years and recently been tested for COVID, so I have nothing to worry about. Cue the poor old lady I scarred today. She turns around, probably mid to late 50s, typical Karen haircut, and shoots daggers at me with her mouth agape in abject horror. My first mistake was assuming, from just her appearance and reaction, that she was a full-blown Karen and I was about to receive the ear beating of a lifetime, so I, with my 1 million IQ brain, decided to tell her don't worry, it's just the cancer. I don't have cancer, I know I don't have COVID, and I just wanted to avoid a public argument because I've read too many anecdotes of how these happen. I assumed that would be enough for anyone to drop the conversation and leave me alone. It was never meant to be a joke. Her expression immediately drops and she starts crying. She tells me she lost her husband to cancer not too long ago and how sorry she is that I have to suffer so young. At this point I didn't want to devastate the poor woman by telling her I wasn't being serious, so I did my best to assure her I was okay and that I was sorry for her loss. The queue seemed to freeze in place for the next 5 hours. The cashier calls her up next and she tells me to take care and she'll pray for my health, all whilst I have a cigarette behind my ear and 2 bottles of cider in my hands. I'm a terrible person and I'm never shopping there again. DL, doctor lied to a woman who looked like a Karen about having cancer to avoid her yelling at me in a shop. She recently lost her husband and spent the next 10 minutes reassuring me. A few years ago I lived near a train station which had two kebab takeaways exactly next to each other. One was always 10 cents cheaper than the other, so I often went there to get a kebab. One time it was pretty empty, so I ordered a kebab to go and sat down at a table which was located behind the entrance door, so people wouldn't see me when entering the takeaway, because the door swung in my direction. Moments later a Karen came inside, around her 40s I guess, went straight to the counter and also ordered kebab. When the cook started to make my kebab a few moments later, he asked me, "What sauce do you want?" To which the Karen replied, "Garlic." Then I stood up, went to the counter and said, "Hot sauce please." The Karen looked at me angrily and said, that this is her kebab and I should get back in line. I replied that I was here first and I was waiting for my kebab while sitting at the table. She said that I was lying because she didn't see me when she walked in. I said yes, because the table is located behind the door. I turned away from her and was ready to get my kebab when she screamed at me and the cook, that I was lying, and she demands that she gets that kebab now. I am a loyal customer for years. Give me that kebab with garlic sauce or I will never come back. The cook, which was also the owner, suddenly backed her. If she said she was first, then it must be true. I was looking at him and asked, annoyed, "You saw me walking in before her and also took my order before she even entered this place. So you are calling me a liar now?" At that point he had also put hot sauce into the kebab, told me to calm down and said, "You obviously are lying, but lucky for you I already put hot sauce in here. She wanted garlic, so this one is for you, but don't you dare to come in again and annoy my loyal customers," to which she nodded and smiled mischievous at me. He put the kebab on the counter and demanded the cash. I ignored the kebab and just replied, "I don't want it anymore, I'll buy my kebab in the other takeaway now. I don't want stuff from people or give money to people that call me a liar," and I stormed out. End of the story. He lost a customer that actually went there pretty often, and he also had to throw that kebab with hot sauce away, because that Karen obviously didn't want it. That takeaway also closed down a couple of months later. I bet I wasn't the only customer that got badly treated by him. For the past month, I have been spitting out worms from my mouth ever so often. Went to see a doctor and he wasn't sure what it was to, but gave me antibiotics to flush out whatever it is. However, I sneezed it out again today, haven't started eating antibiotics yet, and I'm actually starting to get worried about what's happening. The reason I say sneezed is because I sneezed in the toilet and looked down in the sink and to my horror realized the little devil was chilling inside. The worm is a translucent one, extremely thin and about 5 mm long. Its body seems to have multiple segments with a faint black line outlining the segments. I have picture and video evidence of this wriggly unwelcome intruder if that helps. TLDR, found mysterious worms in my mouth my doctor wasn't able to ID, might actually have a colony of worms living inside me. The relationship between me and my dad didn't have the best relationship, and I wanted to try and get things going and try to make it stronger, so I decided to show him what a rickroll is and sent him the link. And the problem starts here. Every link he sends me is rickroll. He laughs too much about it and I know he is having fun and thinks that this would make us get closer, but it's really too much. That was a week ago and now things got worse. He told the rest of the family about it, so now it's literally everywhere I look. I can't get rid of it. So I don't know if I were right to show it to my dad or should I have just left the relationship as messed up as it was. TLDR, I showed my dad a rickroll, it turned into a big problem and most of the family started sending it everywhere. He phones the emergency help desk number on the morning of a massive go-live for a multi-million-euro project across 15 sites in 6 countries. My laptop is telling me the battery has degraded and is no longer performing optimally. I need you to send me a new one. Call gets escalated to me as our site isn't going live for a couple of hours. I look up the machine info, it's a Surface. It's out of warranty, and due to be replaced back in April. Battery is not user replaceable. I tell the chap all this, and that as soon as we're able to get stock in he can have a brand new shiny thing. Usually, this is enough to satisfy such people. But this morning he's reopened the ticket, a new one was created for the laptop order. This machine is not running on battery at all now. Means I am having to run on mains power all day, which is going to increase my electric bill if I am not going to see a new machine for a couple of months. He is based from home. He has been working from home for the entire 4 years I've been at this company. Where does he think his laptop battery power comes from? Edit, he's replied to argue with me. Yep, was charging the battery on the mains and then turning off the power and running on battery until it depleted, then topped it up on mains and repeated as necessary. Now it is not holding any charge, so the only way I can use the laptop is to have it on mains all day. As soon as I turn off the mains switch, the laptop shuts down. Therefore I'm using circa 8 hours of mains electric as opposed to the 2-bit I was using previously. I guess at this point I should mention the division he's head of sells electrical items to retailers. So I work at an outdoor bar and grill. I work as a busboy but have some responsibilities outside of that. One of the responsibilities is stocking the walk-in freezer when beer shipments come in. The restaurant that I work at is very popular in my town, which means it takes a very long time to stock the mammoth shipments. Takes most of a day. 100 to 200 cases of beer. So I got to work on a shipment day and there's more than I thought. I'm taking a lot longer than I usually would. I look up at the sky and the clouds are looking pretty rough. I look at my phone and lo and behold it's gonna thunderstorm. So I take the hand truck and start moving the beer under a canopy. My boss sees this and doesn't like that I'm taking another 30 minutes to move the beer for a second time. She was a police officer for 20 years and as she puts it, I always know BST. So she just starts chucking the beer in the freezer way too high with no regard for how it's stacked. I know she is gonna mess up royally and try and explain that that's not how you do it. This is how the following conversation ensued. My memory isn't the best, so this is a generalization. Me, that's not how you do it. You're stacking them the wrong way and the towers are way too high. Boss, I've been in this game for 3 years, I know what I'm doing. Me, you put me here to do this job and to do it right and I was trained properly. That's the wrong way to do it. Boss, either help me or the door's that way. Points at door. Cue malicious compliance. So I go home for the day because I know it's gonna go wrong and I don't wanna be responsible. Not 30 minutes later I get a call from a coworker furiously screaming at me, saying need to get back and fix my mistake. So I ride my bike back and walk right to the freezer and see a mess. The entire right wall fell down, ruining around 4,000 worth of beer, 2,000 worth of food, and the entire wall is soaked. They had to close down the restaurant for 2 weeks to fix the freezer from the damage. Beer got under the floor and started mucking up the walls and floor. Moral of the story, listen to your employees. TL, Dr. My boss doesn't listen to me and loses around 10,000. Update, my boss tried to lie to upper management to get me fired, saying that I was the one that told her how to stack the beer. Thank God my coworker Jack saw what happened and vouched for me. That hoe fired. Feelgoodman.jpg. We recently had an outage that caused a major issue with our AD server. I don't know all the details as I'm not on the team that manages servers, but all of our AD accounts were wiped out. Supposedly this was due to an empty file that somehow got uploaded. This was all second-hand information as I'm not on the team that manages servers. Apparently we couldn't restore from a backup because some service was randomly deleting accounts. So they made the decision to start recreating accounts and reapplying permissions they previously had. This means that when a computer gets connected to the network after all this happened, and a user logs in, it creates a secondary profile. We're testing software to transfer documents/settings to this new profile to make it just like the old one, but until that's fully vetted we're doing things manually. We don't have roaming profiles. I was working with one user who submitted a ticket requesting assistance. She told me if she could just get one file from her old profile, I would make her day. She had backed everything else up, but this one file, which sounded very important and hard to redo, was the one thing she forgot. I navigated to her old profile folder in Windows and found the file in question within a minute. As I was doing this, she said, "If you find this file for me, I will literally cry on the phone." I copied it to the new profile and opened to make sure it worked. I didn't hear full-on crying, but it was quiet for a minute and the camera she had on was pointed away from her face, so I'm pretty sure she was crying. She thanked me profusely, and I told her I was happy to help out. It reminded me that the work I do daily that seems simple for me can literally make someone else's workload 10 times easier. This happened close to 15 years ago when I was about 7. I didn't realize how creepy the situation was until many years later. My dad and I went on a weekend motorcycle trip to Maryland from NY to watch motocross racing at a track called Budds Creek. It was an awesome trip. I love spending time with my dad and watching the racers speed around this insane dirt track. I met two of the all-time greats for that time. If you're familiar with early 00s motocross, you'll know who I'm talking about. They always came in first and second in every race. We did the drive back in one go. It was late at night and we were somewhere in southern Pennsylvania when I started getting really cold on the back of the bike. My dad pulled over on the side of I-95 so I could warm up. Within a minute of stopping, A van pulled up behind us and this older couple got out. The man started talking to my dad, saying they had followed us for some time and I looked so uncomfortable and how they were headed north and I should ride with them in the warm van instead. I remember the man kneeling down and asking me if I wanted the snacks they had in the van and if I wanted to go to Hershey Park. My dad is a pretty tough guy, and I remember him talking to them in a hushed voice, probably so I wouldn't hear him threatening them. He told me years later that he told them he had a gun strapped to his hip, and they better drive away right now before he used it. They continued to try and convince him, but they left after a few minutes. I'm probably out of their preferred age range now, but hey, probable child abductors, let's not meet. A few years ago, when I was 17, I was at a county fair. It was around 11 at night and I was standing with my friends, talking and eating. To understand what happened next, you have to understand it was very crowded and loud. An older man approached me, and told me a lady needed my help, and I moved away from my friends to try to hear what he was saying. We were near one of the exits to the parking lot. The man walked me to the exit, but I wouldn't exit with him. The whole parking lot was dark, packed full of cars, and there were no people out there. He was pointing out in the parking lot, and trying to rush me, frantically saying she's over there, hurry she needs your help. I kept asking where? I don't see anyone? I couldn't even see far, because all the large trucks and vans blocked the view of the whole lot. The man said she's behind that car. And started pulling my arm. I wouldn't let him pull me, and said no, I can't see anyone. Then, he pointed off in an opposite direction of the parking lot, and said over there. I looked, the only person I could see off in the distance, was someone pushing a big cart with trash bins on it, and I said that's someone who works here. Then I walked away from him really fast, and went back into the fair. My friends were asking where the heck I went, they didn't even see me leave. When I told them, everyone was tripping out, that I almost got kidnapped. It was embarrassing, and I felt really stupid. It's so creepy to imagine what could have happened. I thought that was only something I had to worry about when I was little. I don't want to meet him again, and sometimes think about anyone else who has met him in similar situations, and it worries me. So many years ago I worked at CVS Pharmacy, and after a few months they had me working the 1-hour photo lab in addition to my regular cashier duties. In the photo lab, there were 2 main photo development services offered, 1-hour development on-site and 1-week development via mail into a professional Kodak photo lab in the area. The on-site 1-hour photos were sorted into red CVS labeled envelopes and the off-site Kodak developments were put in yellow Kodak branded envelopes. The envelopes of developed photos were sorted in bins with the letters for the owner's last name. This will be important later. One evening a lady comes in, digs around in her purse, and hands me a beat-up red claim ticket for a 1-hour photo envelope. I look in the bin for her last name and can't find her photo envelope, so I check every single one of the red envelopes on site and none of them are hers. I explain to her I can't find it, and ask her to confirm it was this CVS and not another one she dropped it off at. She confirms it was this CVS and starts getting a bit antsy as I can't find her photos right away, but I haven't given up just yet. We keep a logbook of all the photos we developed on site, so I start digging through the logbook and have to flip back to many months earlier to find her entry. It turns out that was an old ticket and she actually was looking for another set of photos that she happened to drop off for off-site processing by the Kodak lab. I immediately look in the bin for her last name and find the photos in the yellow envelope and start ringing her up for them. She's getting an attitude with me while checking out and complaining about me taking a while to find them. I apologize and explained she gave me the wrong ticket and I was looking through the wrong color envelopes based on that. She kept complaining even after she was ring up, and I just ignored her and continued to do my job to finish the last photos and shut down the machine. While I was sitting here trying to refill the chemicals in the machine, I had enough and told her, "You come in here with an attitude and expect me to kiss your ass, I'm not going to do it." This set her off and she immediately asked to speak with the manager. Cue malicious compliance. I smile and grab the phone to page the manager on duty, a 90-plus-year-old Chinese man who barely speaks English and wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer. She immediately asks him what my name is because I wasn't wearing a name tag and I wouldn't tell her when she asked me. He replies back, "I don't know." And he was totally telling the truth. Bless him, but Chen didn't even know my name despite me working with him for months at this point. She eventually got frustrated with him enough, and just left the store. Chen left to go into the manager's office and didn't even bother scolding me about anything. Tifu. This happened a few years ago. I work at hotels, and at the time I was managing events as well. There was a wedding rehearsal dinner happening in our meeting space. When it was over they were leaving all the small vases with flowers. I asked them if I could take them home with me. They all fit back into the one box, so I packed them up into my car and left. It was about 1 a.m., and I thought I would quick sneak into Nana's house on my way home, and place them all throughout her house so she has a sweet surprise when she wakes up. Fast forward to later that afternoon, she called me and said I woke up to a beautiful surprise this morning. I said I was so happy that she liked them. Then she tells me I thought I was dead at first though. The sun was beaming through the windows, it was quiet, and flowers were everywhere around my house. My stomach dropped, I felt so bad. But then proceeded to say when I realized it was a surprise from you I laughed. Then I walked to each of my neighbor's house and left one on their doorstep. Still feel bad. But she always laughs about it and tells her church friends. DL, Drive. I left vases of flowers in my Nana's house late at night and she woke up thinking she was dead. When I get off work I like to go to the store since it is on the way to my home. I go and normally get what I want to eat that night. Well, 2 days ago I was shopping and I saw a kid maybe 12 stuffed games down his shirt. I went on shopping as I don't work there. 10 minutes afterwards this store's loss prevention comes up screaming at me about how I didn't report this to them, that I need to report this stuff instantly with the radio. I looks at the LP, told them not to yell at me and that I don't work here. Then went about shopping. Next thing I know is the store manager comes up and yells at me telling me that I need to do my job as security. Yes, I was in uniform. No, I do not work for the company they hire. I point to my patch stating the company I work. The store manager apologized and gave me 10 off my 50 purchase from the hassle. I have not seen the LP guy since. I also don't go to that store anymore. You can see here how dirty she is. And that's not even the worst of it. She left the kitchen unusable for the past 2 months. I couldn't cook during that time and I only went into the kitchen to wash my clothes in the washing machine. I have been cleaning every week since I moved in there last year and I got fed up during quarantine of cleaning after her, so I stopped. I left last week and now she is texting me saying I destroyed the fridge and the oven and the landlord won't be happy about it. I left some fruit in there which she can easily throw out, but first she has to throw out the 8 bags of garbage I bagged for her in the dining room because she had no time in 2 months to do it herself. She spends her waking hours screaming on the phone and playing video games. She also said you should never leave an apartment dirty because it causes problems with the landlord. She has decided to take the route of blaming me for her filth because she is too lazy to spend 1 hour cleaning the kitchen. Hello. This is my first post here, so please forgive me for formatting, mobile, and all else, but this just happened. So I recently moved to the big city from a small town. I went from living in a 3rd-story apartment to a basement one. Back in this small town I always kept a few windows open, and even the balcony doors. I felt like I didn't have much to worry about. Plus it kept things cool in the summer, and let fresh air in the winter. So when I moved into this city, I was advised against from doing so. Makes sense, right? Being in a basement, it'd make it a lot easier for someone to get in. So the only time I have any of my windows open is during the day and when I'm home. But tonight was a little different. So tonight I was cooking dinner, which was delicious BTW, and turned on my oven fan as things were getting a bit smoky. After a while I realized it wasn't helping, so I decided to open up my windows a bit. Both the living room and bedroom. So fast forward a bit, and I've eaten and I decided to lay on my bed for a bit and flip through the Bluebird socials. As I was doing this I heard someone walking around outside. Thought nothing of it, but then I heard a tapping sound on my window. I didn't dare to look out my window, blinds were closed, I just stared at my blinds thinking WTF? Then I heard them run off. So I continued flipping through Bluebird, and then heard more footsteps. Followed by more knocking. For 30 seconds, maybe? Followed by a loud truck, the one time I'm glad to hear a straight piped pass, then them running off again. I haven't heard anything since, but makes me wonder. How many times did they approach my window tonight, without me being aware? But I don't think this is the first time this has happened. The other night I woke up at 1:30 a.m., in complete fear. I remember I was having a pretty awesome dream, then my mind told me to wake up and not move. Someone is watching you. For what felt like forever I laid in bed in complete fear, not sure of what was about to happen, or what I was to do. So I laid there in fear, until that feeling went away. Afterward I proceeded to check out my window and all was clear. Checked my apartment. It was clear. I don't believe this was sleep paralysis, as I remember being able to move, because I checked my phone to see what time it was. But that was the most intense moment of fear I've had in a long time. I know this isn't the most interesting, exciting, or scary thing that you'll read tonight. But to me, it's terrifying. Growing up in a small town where you felt a little more safe, complacent, this sort of thing is kinda unsettling. So to whoever that was, let's not meet. I work at a small-town coffee shop that has managed to adapt and stay busy during COVID-19 by utilizing a window for walk-up service. A regular problematic customer, let's call him TJ, is a typical middle-aged man riddled with toxic masculinity. He often makes female employees and customers uncomfortable with his comments. Lately he's been around a lot, being typical TJ. Today he came to our window and ordered a coffee. Cool, nothing out of the ordinary. A co-worker asked him if he would like to tip via our Square register. We normally don't verbally ask customers, but with the current pandemic we are not allowing customers to touch our iPad system. He proceeded to tell her to put 100, and reassured them he wanted to tip that much because he appreciates our hard work and effort and wants to chip in since our business has been a bit slower. Okay, I gave him that and almost have a change of heart about DJ. We both outwardly thank him and he goes on his way. I text my boss about this uncharacteristic interaction with TJ, and through their end of the register system she was able to look at the transaction. They noticed that not only was the credit card he used not in his name, but in his boss's name, on their company card. Typical TJ. What a D-bag. Okay, I'm not a sever. I normally work at the reception of a hotel. So I know how you people are getting mistreated on a daily basis. That said, here's my story from the day I was asked to help out at a bar. One of my best mates owned a bar on an island in the Mediterranean. It was my day off, so I decided to pay him a visit, have a pint or two and watch some Premier League football. I don't remember what game was on, but the place was packed, and the bar was short-staffed. So my friend asked me if I could help him and his only waiter out. I thought something like, free beer and 50 quid in my pocket? Why not? Anyway, things were going smoothly, until I happened to approach a certain table of a young guy in a suit and his cronies. Meet the cast. Me, yours truly. Ab, arrogant bar steward. MF, owner. Me, hello, how are you? Can I get you something to drink? AB, 3 pints. And make it fast. Me, coming. So I went back to the bar, got the beers and went back to the table. AB, that took far too long. You better hurry up next time. I want another round in exactly 16.00 hours. Okay, I didn't say anything, the minutes passed, and I almost forgot about that lovely person. Until Ab, shouting across the bar, hey, you. It's 16.00 hours. Where are beers? Me, looking at the big clock at the bar, sorry mate, but we're going by the clock at the bar. And there it says it's still 5 minutes to go. 80% of the other patrons erupt into laughter. AB, it's my watch that counts. I'm not happy with your snotty attitude. In Britain, there is a law that says you get all of your consumptions for free if you're not happy with the service. Now, my mate was a bulky guy, ex-sergeant of the British Army. He had heard the commotion from behind the bar, walked up to the guy, took him by the collar and said the following. I am British. I know about the laws in Britain. But even if there was a law like that in Britain, you're in Spain, and British law wouldn't apply in Spain, anyway. So pay for your stuff, and leave my place. I am the owner. Ab tried to argue, but my mate had the rest of the bar behind him. So he eventually paid, and him and his cronies finally left beaten. I studied literature in college and was an active part of the public poetry reading scene in the city. The events were usually organized and held at various college campuses, and students from all over were invited via email. I received one such email inviting me to write and perform a poem at one particular college, and immediately signed up for it. I turned up on the day and was told I'd be performing first. The turnout was huge, way more than I was used to. I went on stage and let rip. It was a dark poem about the fate of a city and its citizens at the losing end of a war, and I recited it with appropriate emotion. The crowd was completely silent. Not even the usual murmur of inattentive students was audible, so I felt I had their complete attention and was really getting into it. I finished with a dramatic flourish and wait for the applause. Still silence. Now I'm wondering whether I went too far and shocked them into silence. The 3 judges, the events were in contest form, where the best 3 poems get a cash prize, looked very uncomfortable and were discussing amongst themselves, and finally one of them took the mic. Osman Haji, that was a very nice poem, but what does this have to do with the environment? Turns out the event was on Earth Day and there was a theme for the event. I was supposed to write a poem about the Earth or the environment, and not one about the rape and slaughter of a populace in medieval times. My subject came out of left field and made my melodramatic performance all the more cringy in context. I apologized for my oversight and left the campus immediately, but the same crowd usually turns up for all the events, so I never heard the end of it for the rest of the year. TLDR, misread an email and performed an unnecessarily dramatic poem, failing to recognize I was supposed to perform based on a theme. I was pretty outspoken as a kid. In the sense that I pretty much said whatever I saw, and my opinion on it. This led to a couple of awkward moments, so my dad started prepping me before we went anywhere, just to make sure I wasn't saying anything he felt was out of order. Then one day we were invited to a couple my parents studied with at university. The guy had a bit of a weird nose, and before we left Dad told me to please not say that the guy looked like a pig. For some reason I liked comparing people to animals. When we arrived at the place, and just before we started eating, I loudly told my dad, "I don't think he looks like a pig at all." We never had dinner there again. I'm not sure if it's malicious, but my dad never told me not to say anything after that. So this happened about 3 years ago. I was a landscape gardener, and had just taken up a contract to work through an agency for a large housing association, working on a team installing new gardens on housing developments. I had been working there for about a week. After finishing the day's work, a group of 4 of us were in the van on the way back to the base. We were just talking, and when someone asked me how I was liking the company, I said I was enjoying working here. The work wasn't too difficult, and the money was better than my last job. This caught someone's attention, and he asked me how much I was on. I didn't really think anything of it, and told him what I was earning hourly. The guy lost his shoot. He said that he, 47M, has been working directly for the housing association I was subbing for 20+ years, and that I, 22M, was on more than him. Like £2.50 an hour more. I didn't really know how to react. I just said that I was contracted by an agency to do a job and that's what they were paying. He spent the rest of the van ride to the base calling me rich boy and telling me that I was a useless worker and shouldn't be on as much as I was. When we got back to the base, while I unloaded the van, he went around the yard and told everyone that I was an entitled rich boy who was getting too much money for what I did, and because he was a long-standing employee and I was the new kid, everyone on the base except management called me rich boy from that day onwards. I stuck it out at that company for another 7 months, because the money was great, but every day I knew that I wasn't welcome. If I had kept my mouth shut about my earnings, I'd probably still be there. So to everyone out there saying that you should talk about your salaries and have an open workplace, just remember that if you're making more than your co-workers and they know it, they might not treat you very well. TL Doctor told co-workers how much I was earning, the workplace turned hostile. First time posting, currently a EMS dispatcher for a private ambulance company for 3 years now. We take some calls, however, they're usually seizures, psych, and falls. This one? Probably should have been psych, but unfortunately she wasn't the patient. This call happened in my first year, while I was pretty fresh and didn't understand the power of controlling a call. And #X200B. Me, okay, tell me exactly what happened. CLR, yeah, my mom fell in the other room, you know we have her locked in there right now, but yeah she fell and I think she may have hit her head. Me, okay, are you with her now? CLR, well, you see, she has dementia, and we live in a new home, so she is locked in there. You see, we can't have her wandering because of the bears that are around here. Me, have you gone to check on her yet? CLR, no, I can't unlock her door because she will get out and the bears will get her. Me, can you please go check on the patient? CLR, yeah, I think she might have hit her head, it sounded like she hit the end table, that's what woke me up, but even our big dog, insert large dog brand, is afraid to go outside because there are bears here at this new house. Please send the ambulance but make sure they get in and out quick because the bears will get them. Rinse and repeat for literally every one of the 10 questions involved with a fall. I was essentially working with a third-party caller as she flat out refused to unlock her mother from the room until the imps got there, let alone even go look at her. And #X200B. I kid you not, I heard way more about these bears than I ever got out of her regarding her fallen mother. While I may have wanted to bash my head into the desk repeatedly asking her the questions, now I can have a good belly laugh over it. From what I do remember though, Mom was transported alright, and no EMTs were mauled by the darn bears. So this one happened a few years ago, and it is one of the rare exceptions to the "I don't work here" trope, in that the customer in question was entirely within their right to ask me questions. Why, may you ask? I was wearing the uniform. On to the story. So back in my university days, I used to work at a franchise pet store with a very simple uniform, a polo shirt and/or a hooded sweatshirt and black pants. Basically, the franchisor wasn't very sticky about uniforms, and neither were the owners typically. The sweatshirts were pretty high quality, as were the polos. Actually, I still have all my shirts from there and wear them regularly, which leads to the issue, and I like to wear them over my gym clothes because I don't have to worry too much. Not only are they just old work sweaters, but by being work sweaters, they're actually pretty durable, and they have pockets. I'm on my way home from the gym wearing black yoga pants and a bright-colored workout top with my sweater over it, and my SO tells me we need cat food, so off to the local location of the store I used to work at. They have a loyalty program. It's a busy night, so I pull out my cat food, reface the shelf so the employees don't need to, and I hear "excuse me" in a rather rude tone from a man down the aisle. I paid no mind, entirely forgetting about the shirt. He keeps huffing, and I finally tell him I don't work here, still forgetting about the shirt, and walk away. This little older gentleman, like Tiny, is looking at the cat litter bags and looks up. He heard my exchange with the other man and admitted he was going to ask me for help because I had the shirt on and looked like an employee. I admitted it was my fault for being confusing, and that if he wanted I would carry his cat litter up to the counter and out for him, since I am wearing the uniform. He also asked a few questions about cat food and litter types and what treats/toys he should buy. Turns out he had just adopted one of the store cats. They have one of those deals with a local shelter, and was waiting to pick up said kitty when the rush occurred and hadn't been able to flag anyone down. Moral of the story: even if someone doesn't work there, if you're nice and NTA, you may still get help. Today I flipped up by sending a photo of a dog. I have a group chat of my 4 siblings. My older sister moved across the country and I don't get to see her, or really talk to her all that much for the matter. The move was recent, last year, and before that she lived literally 2 doors down from my mom. While living next to us, she adopted this beautiful dog, with very unique markings, and named him Charlie. Well, today at the dog park, I'm sitting under a tree and a man brings a dog that looks exactly like Charlie, and I'm freaking out. Such a beautiful dog, friendly, and was loving the pets I was giving him. This dog is a little smaller than Charlie, and has longer and softer fur. I got super excited and took photos and videos and sent them to my mom, and the group chat between my siblings with the caption, "Look, it's Charlie." My mom responds, sad. I thought she was sad because she loves Charlie and he moved across country. Then I get the text from my brother. Hey, what's up? You know Charlie's been missing for a month, right? No one told me. No one ever mentioned Charlie being missing. Oops. DL, doctor, I sent my sister a photo of a dog that looked similar to hers. Turns out her dog has been missing for a month. Downrange in a Patriot battalion in Saudi Arabia during the 90s. I had nearly 1 year time and grade as a sergeant and was in charge of the medical section. I knew that we would have issues with our 1SG. He was one of those guys who didn't or couldn't understand how HHB worked. So I set up our medical coverage so that there were no medics available for extraneous taskings. Like having 4 medics a day man the aid station. Why 4? 2 were there in case we needed to evacuate a patient. The other 2 kept the place open. I always ran 24-hour operations. So the overnight crew was off the next day. We had site coverage too. Just so happened that we covered 4 sites. My half of the medical section was 14 deep including myself. So I ran 3 teams of 4 and all were accounted for. 4 in the aid station. 4 on a tactical site. 4 off recovering from 24-hour duty. I love doing troop-to-tasks with the 1SG. Sorry Top. No wiggle room. He called one day and demanded I send some medics for drown-proofing training. I told him I didn't have anyone. He became belligerent at that answer and demanded I comply. I told him I could, but we would have to close the aid station, which he was fine with. Unfortunately for Top, I was in the office with the PA and surgeon when he called. Our surgeon was a lieutenant colonel who happened to outrank the battalion CDR. So Doc took notice to the content of the call when I mentioned closing the clinic. He asked me who was on the phone, what they wanted, and why we had to shut our doors for a trip to the pool. The LTC Doc ended up taking the phone from me and talking to the 1SG. Top was not pleased when the LTC gave the phone back. His whole tone had changed. I guess he forgot I had a LTC for a doc. He told me that I was disloyal for putting the doc on the phone. I should have discussed the issue with him. Never mind that I was just trying that and got shut down. Listening to him waffle was great. I asked the guys that just got off if they wanted to go to the pool. They were all for it considering it was July in Iran. Who wouldn't want to be in a pool? So they went on their day off and all was good. I studied literature in college and was an active part of the public poetry reading scene in the city. The events were usually organized and held at various college campuses and students from all over were invited via email. I received one such email inviting me to write and perform a poem at one particular college, and immediately signed up for it. I turned up on the day and was told I'd be performing first. The turnout was huge, way more than I was used to. I went on stage and let rip. It was a dark poem about the fate of a city and its citizens at the losing end of a war, and I recited it with appropriate emotion. The crowd was completely silent. Not even the usual murmur of inattentive students was audible, so I felt I had their complete attention and was really getting into it. I finished with a dramatic flourish and wait for the applause. Still silence. Now I'm wondering whether I went too far and shocked them into silence. The three judges, the events were in contest form, where the best 3 poems get a cash prize, looked very uncomfortable and were discussing amongst themselves, and finally one of them took the mic. Osman Haji, that was a very nice poem, but what does this have to do with the environment? Turns out the event was on Earth Day and there was a theme for the event. I was supposed to write a poem about the earth or the environment, and not one about the rape and slaughter of a populace in medieval times. My subject came out of left field and made my melodramatic performance all the more cringy in context. I apologized for my oversight and left the campus immediately, but the same crowd usually turns up for all the events, so I never heard the end of it for the rest of the year. TLDR, misread an email and performed an unnecessarily dramatic poem, failing to recognize I was supposed to perform based on a theme. This is my first post, and I am on mobile, so please bear with me, thanks. So, I've been working in a popular supermarket in the UK for around 5 years now, and remembered this story of a customer that really just irritated me. It was my first week working in this store and I was pretty young, so my customer service skills weren't perfect. Anyway, I was working the self-service machines, and a middle-aged woman came through with some wine, and a few various items. I walked over, to approve the alcohol sale. Me: "Hi there, can I just approve your alcohol for you please?" Middle-aged woman: "Do I have a choice?" Me: confused, "Well, not really." Middle-aged women, tuts and huffs: "Well, why ask me then?" I just approved her alcohol, apologized, and walked away to watch the rest of the machines. As she was leaving, she couldn't just walk out. She had to glare at me, look me up and down, roll her eyes and shake her head, then remarked that I was stupid. One of my colleagues noticed her antics and told me that the same woman was known for having an attitude problem with staff regardless of how you deal with her. It makes me wonder what is going on in her life for her to feel that she has to behave that way. It kind of saddens me. I work at the corporate help desk for a mid-sized company with multiple locations and divisions. Thankfully we can answer our help desk calls from home, so I've been doing the work from home life for the past few months. Caller: "I hit the wrong key and my computer locked up." Me: "Oh no, does it respond if you hit Ctrl-Alt-Del?" Caller: "Nope." Me: "Sees this caller is from a location that uses thin clients. Is this a computer or a thin client?" Caller: "A thin client." This is a potential problem because I don't have access to that division's servers. If their session is hung up, someone with admin access will need to log them out from the server. I can do basic user account management, but they have their own IT staff to handle these calls. This caller hit the wrong button on the phone tree. But, since I'm with corporate, I always try my best to help them instead of pass them off. Me: "Oh, I'm not sure what we can do. Does it respond when you click the start menu in the bottom corner?" Caller: "I don't see that. All I have is my name and password." Me: "Oh. And it doesn't respond when you type?" Caller: "No, I just have never seen this screen before." Me: "Have you tried typing your password?" Caller: "Which one?" Me: "Your network password." Caller: "Types out loud username. That didn't work." Me: "It sounded like you typed in your username. You should type what you normally try after that." Caller: "Oh, okay. Tries nope. Let me try. Nope. Maybe. Nope. Me, okay, you're locked out, let me clear it. That confirms it is asking for your regular network password though. Caller, okay. I got it, I'm in. Me. Score 1 for persistent troubleshooting techniques, I guess. So we were working happily away and this lady comes in from a local radio station. The bosses then get this deal worked where we sell them certificates for oil changes, brake jobs, alignments etc. and they auction them off and we get advertising time in exchange. Radio station lady wants us to work on her Altima. Pretty normal ticket, change the oil, rotate the tires, install new wipers. We are busy as usual but knock the job right out. The first I hear things might not be going right is when I get a call that the wipers were not in fact replaced. Great. I get chewed out for that, she comes by and we install them and get her back on the road fast. But it's not over. It wasn't over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor and she wasn't done by a long shot. Next she calls back that her car is making a clicking noise. She's convinced that since we didn't install the wipers somehow we also messed up other areas. We looked at that car 6 separate times. The clicking we noticed. It was as simple as the fact that Nissan put crappy hubcaps on that year car. They were noisy especially after a few cycles of being removed for rotation purposes. She even brought in her male mechanic friend, we removed the hubcaps, they drove the car and agreed the noise was gone without the hubcaps. Then we installed them back and instantly the noise was back. She was still not convinced there was not something wrong with her car even after all that. She even went to the owner after we had explained several times it was just her hubcaps making noise and it was annoying but not dangerous at all. She turned on all the drama and was trying to get some kind of concession, not sure what she thought was appropriate, new car, new house, stack of gold bars, etc. The highlight was when she wailed, tears welling up in her eyes, "But I nearly died." No you didn't. Years later I happened to come across an Edmunds article discussing that particular year of Nissan Altima. I read it where they discussed that overall it was a great car but that it was prone to a few minor problems specifically listing the noisy hubcaps. I nearly printed it and mailed it to Altima lady. Thankfully I've been out of the restaurant industry for quite some time. Having delivered for several different pizza places, I've amassed a collection of crazy/bad customer stories. Here is one of my favorites. To give a little background on this customer, he would order pizza to his house. If you were a new driver, he would tip you $4 or $5. After that he would never tip you again or more likely try to short you. Me. Knocks on door several times over 5 minutes / customer, I can see you on the couch. Please come to the door. Customer, alright, what was the total? Me, $12. Customer, well all I have is a $5 bill. Me, the total is $12. You can either get the money or I'll take it back to the store. Customer, hold on, I'll find the money. Comes back several minutes later. I couldn't find $12 but I found another couple of dollars. Customer then tries to hand me $7. This is all I have. Me, I still have other deliveries to go to. If you're going to order, please make sure you have the money to pay. At this point I walk up a rather long hill to my car. As I am starting to drive away, I hear someone tap on the window. Customer, I found a 10. Will you take a 10 for the pizza? Me, where did the 5 go? Customer, it's still there. This is the point where I was beyond fed up. I rolled up my window, stared directly at the customer and proceeded to eat a slice of the pizza before driving off. Our owner had gotten so sick of the guy that he laughed when I told him about it. DL, doctor, guy said he didn't have the money to pay for pizza. Found more than enough money, but still tried to short me. I ate his pizza as I drove off. Bartender at a local pizza joint. My buddy came in after a long day dealing with his 2 sick little girls. He tells me a story from today about the littlest. She's screaming for him from the bathroom. She states she's been waiting for 60 years for him. All she wanted was a cheese pizza from our place. Since they were sick he went with something more appropriate for upset stomachs. But you can guarantee I got him a gift certificate for a cheese pizza for her when she's better. Nice to have good customers to even out the bad ones, lol. I worked in housekeeping in a hotel for months up until this past week. I'm now 35 weeks pregnant. I was scheduled to work 5+ days a week, with 20+ rooms to myself. I came into work recently, because I was on the schedule, and I could barely walk. I couldn't bend my back and my ankles were hugely swollen. I had been in L&D the night before to stop contractions. We didn't have many rooms, but 5 housekeepers in-house. Everyone was almost begging my manager to send me home, as we had too many housekeepers for the amount of rooms. Now, I'm huge at this point in pregnancy. I can't bend too far forward in general. My manager and I, discussed a couple weeks ago that she didn't want me cleaning bathtubs, so I was to have another housekeeper come clean my bathtubs. No biggie, I was fine with that. Well, the day before I quit I had went to find another HK to help with a bathtub. Said manager stopped us in the hall and asked what we were doing socializing on the clock. We explained that she was going to clean a bathtub for me and would go right back to her rooms. She yelled at me and said that if I can't do my job, I need to quit so that she can hire someone who's willing to work. I explained that it wasn't that I wasn't willing to work, rather that's one small task that I myself struggle with accomplishing. She didn't care. She continued yelling at me. Now, I've always hated being yelled at, so I spent the rest of my shift crying while cleaning my rooms. I got home from work, still crying. My boyfriend became extremely upset as I told him what had happened. We decided that it's in the best interest of our child that I just be done, as it's a lot of emotional trouble as well as physical. So I gave my manager her wish, and I went in and handed in my scrubs and quit. She seemed sympathetic, said she understood, was sad to see me go, and for me to come talk to her after I was released from maternity leave. Fast forward to today, another HK at said hotel was talking to this manager, while recording the conversation to send to me. She asked if I would be back after baby. The manager told her that I was lazy and a crybaby so she would never consider hiring me back. I'm glad I quit. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I'm not sure that I'll ever be able to convince myself to work in housekeeping again.